Rahaba, Tohoda Rahaba, my heart is thankful to you, Abba. Tohoda Rahaba, Tohoda Rahaba, my heart is thankful to you.
Well, shalom, shalom, everyone. Welcome to Israel, My Delight, coming to you live from the Northeast Boston area of Massachusetts. Does anyone know where Massachusetts is?
Yes.
All right, okay. That's a good thing. That's a good thing because
Yes.
at least we're here and hopefully providing some good to this area. Hopefully, I think we are. What do you think?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, and I hope so, because that's what we want to bring our light wherever we go. So, welcome everyone, and boy, you all just jumped right into the chat room, into the encouragement room. I love that. That is so cool. Seeing all you, Al and Marie and Anna. Is there anyone else in there that I can see? No.
Wow.
But all three of you just going right at it, just communicating, encouraging one another, lifting one another up. That's what it's all about. That's really what it's all about, body ministry. Interesting too, because been doing some, reflecting on what's been going on here in Massachusetts, and I'm sure where you are also in Canada and also in the rest of the states. A lot of places, a lot of businesses have been kind of closed down, having people work from home or just taken off for 2 weeks, basically, per the instructions of the president. And so AviGayle and I have been home together for a few days now, and it's been very good in one way, of getting the closeness and getting the talking, we're very close anyway. We talk all the time and we're together all the time, except when we have to go to work. So, but now that we're not going to the place of our business, AviGayle is actually home because she can't work from home with what she does. So she's taking a couple of weeks vacation here, and I'm taking a few days off here and there. But I'm still working from home. But it's been good in the sense of coming together. But I was thinking of it. Because Passover is coming up, and thinking about how this coronavirus has really kind of tipped the apple cart, if you will. Oops. Don't want to knock that over. That's my wah-wah. Don't want to knock that over. But how it's really kind of tipped our lives upside down in a lot of ways. Passover coming. A lot of people like to go to larger gatherings for Passover. We've done that before in the past. Participated in them and been part of them and also just been just taking in a wonderful Seder meal, and listening and hearing and soaking in. But this year obviously is different, and it kind of made me think a little bit.
Woohoo.
I know it's dangerous sometimes. When I start to think. By the way, that was a very good broadcast that you had. I listened to about half of it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Very encouraging. I was trying to prepare for tonight.
Yes.
And my mind was racing so much. I just couldn't even. I just couldn't. I had something in my head, and so that's what I'm saying right now. But I just couldn't put anything together. Yeah, I couldn't put it a lot together in my head because of all the things that are going on. So I was thinking about a lot of different things. But a lot of you are probably, like us, kind of isolated, social distancing, as they call it. And, I was just kind of thinking about what it was like at that first Passover. Here you had, 2 to 3 million people, roughly, Israelites. The plagues have happened, all 10 plagues. 9 plagues. The 10th one was just upon them. The first 3, all of Mitzrayim, including the Israelites, were affected the last 7, they were not. Interesting that the 10th plague, the Israelites all had to do something, had to receive what the Father wanted them to do and do what he said to do. I mean, it was an act of faith, taking the blood, putting it on the doorpost and the lintel. But by that act of faith, they were saved from the destroyer that came through to destroy the life of the firstborn of both man and beast. And I was just kind of thinking, as we're just kind of processing this kind of stuff, it was interesting. We went for a walk today, and so we have a nice lake not too far from where we live. So we decided we were going to maybe walk around the lake or walk part of it. We just wanted to get some air, because we've been in the house all day. And when we went down there was, I don't know how many people. There was probably hundreds.
They definitely weren't 6 feet apart.
No. They weren't doing that social distancing thing, I mean, there was just a lot of people because, it's basically a sidewalk that goes around the lake for the most part, or at least 2/3 of it. And there was a lot of people. And I'm like thinking to myself, I said, don't they understand what's going on? We went down there thinking there wasn't going to be that many people, we can keep our distance, do our short little walk, and then come back home. But when we saw that many people out there, we said, this is really not what we want to do. We don't want to mingle, if you will, with the rest of the people right now, because we want to use wisdom. We do our washing of our hands. We sanitize all the surfaces, the doorknobs, the faucets, the bathrooms, everything. So we do our due diligence because it's wise to do due diligence. That's for certain. But again, so we took our walk. We came back home, and then we took a short walk outside into our neighborhood and whatnot, and there was nobody around. We saw a couple of people, but they were in the yards, and we waved or whatever. But there was nobody around, there. And it just kind of made me think of the first Passover again. Here we have the modern day Passover celebrations. Usually, there's a lot of them that go out and go into congregations, sometimes into auditoriums or dining halls or restaurants that do it, and then they we have the music and then either the rabbi or some leader will read the Hagigah and get to the point where you eat and then you finish it after the children find the afikomen and all that. And that's good for people who don't really know that much about Passover and about the symbolism and the connection between Yeshua, the Lamb of God, and Passover. So it's good for that, and I appreciate that. But there's something intimate about having a Passover meal in your home. Now we've done that. We do that a lot, mostly these days. But I thought of it this year that everyone has got to go to their own homes, and their Passover celebrations will be within their walls, within their home. And that's what it says in Exodus. In Exodus 12. Great chapter to read, Exodus 12. I even recommend reading Exodus 12 and looking at Genesis 12 and comparing the two, because it really is an end time message for us. Mm-hmm. And we see how it was in the beginning with the Passover and how it was, it was intimate. They had the lamb on the 10th day of the month of Aviv. They kept that lamb in their home for those 4 days. It became a pet. It became something special, something of value to them. Mm-hmm. something that was intimate with them, with that family. I mean, can you imagine little 4, 5, 6, 3-year-olds playing with that lamb? And then now you have to take that lamb on the 14th day and slay that lamb between the evenings. And between the evenings, as far as we understand it, is between 3 and 6 o'clock on the 14th of Aviv. Interesting that Yeshua was slain, if you will, at 3 o'clock on the 14th of Aviv. So you see connections there. You see connections. So we're going into that. We're going back to our homes. We're going back to the intimacy. I mean, our lives have been turned upside down. The Israelites' lives were turned upside down. I mean, they were under, hard labor, if you will. I don't think that the slaves of Mitzrayim were, like the slaves of southern United States back in the Civil War days and before. And I think it's much different. I think they were just being oppressed by basically in a what do you call it, an economic way, if you will. Kind of like businesses, the businesses were being oppressed because they were being taxed too much. They were being forced to do longer hours for less, and all these kind of stuff. And if you read through that account, I'm not going to go into it now, but if you read through that account, you can see that, because there were certain times that the Israelites, how they replied back to the Egyptian soldiers or Egyptian taskmasters. I think I remember Bill Cloud, saying that word comes from, translates back to the word czar, and actually comes back to the word tax. So you could actually say, instead of taskmasters, you could say tax masters, because they were bringing in, so much burden upon them, to make their quota, but yet not making it easy for them, and all these kind of things. So I think it was a lot of that. So because why would they want to go back to that? Why would they want to go back to that kind of life, where they had plenty of leeks and onions and garlic and fish and all the different things. So they had food. They had a living place. They still lived in Goshen, But I think, looking at it from today's standpoint, where right now our lives have been turned upside down. There's a lot of people that are fearful, a lot of people that are panicking. What do you see, AviGayle,
I see a lot of hope.
Yeah. I see a lot of hope too.
Well, one thing that I see that it's changing people's priorities.
Mm-hmm.
It's changing people's priorities, and as I was saying on the Hidden Voice of Hadassah, I think that's what's needed, is to change people's priorities. And I think that the children of Israel that were in the wilderness, it was change. And one thing that the human race has a hard time dealing with is change.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember so many people in the workforce that if somebody comes in and just wants to change their office, we're going to change our office. We're going to move our desks around or something, just any kind of change. People just have a hard time adjusting to change. And that's why I remember when we crossed over, James, when we crossed over and went into obedience, if you will. We were always faithful in the church. We were faithful in the church. We were always front and center and boots on the ground and ready to do whatever we had to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we got the understanding about the Shabbat being on the last day of the week, and we started seeing the commands, like I was just talking about. And the main stepping stone in change was the Shabbat.
That's right.
Because we were always in church on Sunday. And so so we actually had a little congregation. We had like 22 people that came and were doing Shabbat with us. We did it on a Friday night, and it was challenging for all of us. And I would always say to people, I say, I know this is difficult. You're used to doing something else on Shabbat, and here we are. We're reading the Word. We're having a meal together. The Father always said, prepare a table in the presence of your enemies. Always, have a meal, have praise and worship, but always discuss the Torah during Shabbat. So we stay focused on what this is all about. And we determined in our hearts that we were going to let the Holy Spirit, we were going to let Ruach HaKodesh guide us in how we were going to listen and obey. And so because of that, we're still here doing it. We are like, it was like, it's like anything. It's like developing any kind of a new habit. If you ever said, well, I'm going to change my eating habits. I'm using that as an example. And so the first couple of days is, it's new and everything. And then sticking to it. You say, you have to know, why am I doing this? As I said earlier, I said, if you know the why, the how becomes so much easier. Well, the why for me for changing was obeying the Father.
Yes.
If this is what is written, I want to obey him. For so many years of my life when I was younger, I just, there were times when I was very obedient, and then there were times when I was very disobedient. And the disobedience got me nowhere other than in trouble. The obedience brought me to a place that was awesome. And I loved it. But I know that every time there was a change in our life, and some people have a very difficult time with change. Some people have a very difficult time with change.
Is she looking at me? Just let me know.
Because people get set in their ways. Like, for example, right now, as I was mentioned before, there's no sports. There's no sports going on. I mean, I don't know if there was any games that were in the lineup. I don't know if with basketball games, right? Were there basketball games?
Basketball, hockey,
all these games. And so all these people right now are like, and then people that are used to going to restaurants, and restaurants are not available. And and certain people that, like to hang out in bars, and then the spring break. And all the millennials are like, I don't want to. What's the big deal? Well, you may be carrying a disease, and you could be harming somebody else. You may not come down with anything, but you could be a carrier, and you could bring some harm onto somebody else. So anyhow, the change of discipline, the change of getting rid of those entertainments. Now, we studied the word entertainment before. And remember how we studied that word? Oh, no, it was amusements.
Yeah, amusement. Yeah.
Amusements, museums, amusements. And it's a very, very bewitching title for something. If you're amused by something, it's almost like you're being captivated, you're being bewitched, you're being seduced by spirits, because it's amusements. Now, and I'm going to just be very honest with you that the more I study the word and the more I understand the need for reverencing and respecting the King and his kingdom.
Yes.
He blesses us. Oh my goodness, he blesses us. It's not like we don't have fun. It's not like we don't have laughter. But one thing that we do have more than ever, it's discipline. It's like, even during this whole time with this virus, I've always been compelled to pray every morning. I pray every morning before I even get on to war room prayers. And James can tell you that, but since the virus, I even am more compelled, because I know it's warfare. And so when I look at the Passover, I see that Passover, it's good to be reminded of what our patriarchs went through. And I love Passover because it tells the whole story of what happened. It gives you the whole breakdown of what happened, including the plagues. There were plagues that they saw and they experienced. Now, we kind of like go through them quickly, but imagine them. I mean, if you imagine frogs all over the place, frogs in the bed, frogs every place. I mean, just let that Selah. Or darkness that is so thick, you can feel it. Darkness. Or the water turning to blood. And then the worst of all of them is the killing of the firstborn, whether they're babies or adults, hearing the cries of the families with their firstborn being killed. But it all leads up to our Passover lamb.
Yes.
Yeshua. It all leads up to the Messiah and how that whole message right there. But once you go back to the beginning, like that, I was saying to the people here, and I told you that the scientists said, in order for us to get to the root of what's going on and what we need to do and how we need to deal with this, is we have to go back to the beginning. And that's why it's so important to go back to the beginning of the book and listen and obey. Because then you find out, this is why I do what I do. And then when you start reading the Brit Hadashah, you get more like, wow, this is what it's all about. It was all preparation for our Messiah being sacrificed. He, and redeeming us and changing our lives.
Well, it's interesting too, because you talked about the smashing of the idols, if you will, and really and truly, that is probably one of the most interesting things that, because the Father told our fathers, the children of Israel.
About right now, the smashing of the idols.
Yeah. And you mentioned some.
Yeah. And there's more.
I got a few more written down here.
And let me just say one other thing that there's more of. The hygiene, just the hygiene alone. I mean, people, they can't stop talking about how many times they wash their hands, or how they have to be cognizant of the countertops and making sure things are sterile and staying at a distance, because it's like waking you up to the fact that there is an invisible enemy.
Right.
There's an invisible enemy.
There is. That's very good. I mean, because we have an invisible enemy.
Yeah.
And he wants to see us thrown down, ruined. He's the father of lies. He just comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And that is what this virus is doing. But yet it's also, and I think about, with the Israelites again, with those first three plagues, they were right in the midst of it. I mean, it affected them too. It affected all of us, if you will, that were there. And
what about even before that, James, when the Hebrew babies, the threat of the Hebrew baby boys being thrown into the Nile?
Well, that's interesting, because that's one of the idols that are being smashed today. And I just read that today too, which is that the abortion pro-death people, pro-abortion people are upset about that. Like Planned Parenthood is going away for 2 weeks. Abortion clinics are shutting down for 2 weeks. Why? So they cannot kill babies, and they're upset about that. Really?
Yeah.
I mean, they talk. This is the contradiction that is so prevalent in those people that talk this way, in the pro-abortion people. and the pro-death people. They talk so much that they want to save lives with the people in the coronavirus, and they come up against President Trump and his team for what they're doing and all that kind of thing. But yet they do not have any respect for that precious life
Yes.
in the womb, and they disguise it as, oh, it's the woman's choice. No, the baby has a choice, but the baby doesn't have a choice. The baby's voiceless, and we need to be the voice for the voiceless. And that's what's happening today. We see that being smashed, that's a good thing. I mean, all of these are really kind of good things. The greed in the marketplaces, that's being smashed. The movie theaters, the concerts, the bars and the nightclubs. You talked about the sports and all that entertainment in Hollywood.
Even another thing that's happening during this time are families being together. Families are not used to being together as much as they are. The children that are home from school.
Yes.
And the people that are home from work. I mean, people are just being told, you need to take a couple of weeks off, maybe a month off, because we have to quarantine people so that they don't spread this virus. And so families are learning how to have to cook. They're not going to restaurants because restaurants are closed. And so they have to learn how to cook and sit down and have a meal in their house. And another thing they're having to do is homeschool. There's a lot of people that are homeschooling. And I'm excited about that because one young family, I said to the mother, who is a teacher by trade, but she wasn't homeschooling, but she has her 2 daughters. And I said, this is a blessing that you're doing this. Your children will remember this, and it'll have more meaning, these lessons, than any teacher teaching them. When their mother teaches them and you're teaching them, there's something so connected and such an important relationship, because it's all about relationships.
It is.
And unfortunately, people have lost that intimacy of relationships. They've gotten caught up they have more relationship with people on television than they do with their own family, or with their phones. You go out to the restaurant and everybody's got their phone and they're looking at their phone. They're not even talking to each other, all of them.
That's right. Their relationships are texts and emails and not even phone calls anymore, because messages and messaging and all the instant messages and all these types of ways of getting in contact with. But I watched a man he's a I don't know if he's still on the Patriots. Patriots is a football team, but I was on Fox News this morning. His name is Ben Watson, and he has 7 children, a wife and 7 children, and he was on there, and he's a strong Christian man, and he mentioned that he said our schedules are so different that we don't eat breakfast together, we don't eat lunch together, we don't eat sometimes dinner together, because these ones are doing this is doing that, the wife's taking these ones there, and I'm taking they're all over the place. So they're never really together as a family. So that would be 7, 8, 9 of them. And now that they're having to stay home, all 7 children and the husband and wife, he says that is one of the greatest things that are coming out of this, is how to become a family, how to relate to one another, to do those things that we used to do, talk to one another, as opposed to texting and emailing and Facebooking and FaceTiming, even with the video. I had my first FaceTime the other day with my boss. I didn't even know how to answer the stupid thing. I mean, I have an iPhone. I've had an iPhone for a long time, but I've never done FaceTime. And all of a sudden it rang, and I thought, I saw Casey, so I answered like a phone call, and then it started beeping at me again. I'm like, what is this? And so, so I mean, with our work, it's saying that video is necessary because we do usually work closely together when we're there. But so I know I took your cord out, so it's probably on the ground.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Um,
So and Al Henry says it's true. We don't even send letters anymore.
Yeah. And if we do send a letter by some chance, it's typed, in the computer. No one writes anything anymore. No one writes down, Fox News was doing some. There's some interesting things, and when they do their World War II specials and the battlefields and all that kind of stuff, it's so cool to hear these young men, and most of them were men, in the line of fire, from their bunkers, from their foxholes, writing these letters to their mother, to their father, to their wives, to their girlfriends. 18, 19, 20-year-olds, but they wrote it in their own writing.
Yes.
And then you see that also with the Civil War, where people, young men and women, probably mostly men again, in the battlefield, writing back, and these letters that were preserved.
I know.
It's a lost art. It is. I think you were talking about art, and with this time, it's a good time to do certain things. I mean, and things like like writing or music or
because the connection is this. It exemplifies the creator of heaven and earth.
Exactly.
Because he created us, and the words that we speak and the way that we are perceiving things, that's why it's so important for us to be disciplined, so that we do not take his name in vain, that we do not do anything that would bring any type of miscommunication to other people about who he is. Because we, an ambassador always, I've seen that in the New Testament, that we're ambassadors, and an ambassador always represents the king. So letters, you can really, I had to write a little letter today. It was an email letter, or actually yesterday. But it's a reflection. It's a reflection on me. When you write a letter, it's saying, this is what this person, it shows a portion of me. But even more so, because we are created in his image and we have a relationship with him, we are exemplifying him. And when we just think about this now, everybody, think about this. Our attitudes, our behavior, how we just reflect a little bit, how we acted today in any way, shape, or form. Did it reflect the nature of the Father? Or was it our own flesh that was being shown?
Good point. But, through these trials and tribulations, there's light. There's always been light in Goshen.
Yeah. And
we are that light. And you nailed it, AviGayle, because when you talk about this, you talk about relationship, and it is about our relationship with the Most High, and how we deal with this, and make the best of what's going on. And then as we're coming into the Passover season, to really make this one even more special and more spiritual than any other one that you've ever had. I mean, really seek the face of the Father. I just been, pondering upon what Yeshua did for us, our Passover lamb, how this Pesach could be a very, very intimate time.
Yeah, and it could be a time of restoration.
Yeah.
Because when you think about the Passover lamb, what was the whole point of it? It was redemption. His blood was a means of redeeming us back to the Father's house. He said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." So forgiveness was a part of it.
Yeah.
So there was restoration, there was healing, and the people that would come to the Passover meal were those who had circumcised hearts It was circumcision, right?
Yeah.
That those were the ones that were invited.
It's very, very true. I mean, it's just so much. So I mean, I would very much encourage everybody. I was going to read the whole thing today, but I said I don't know if we're going to read all of it. But you know, but it's. I mean, I read it to when I was listening to your show and then watching your show, and then I decided to read the chapter 12 in Shemot, Exodus, and it was phenomenal. That's the microphone. It's on the ground.
It's on the ground.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's on the ground there somewhere. I lost her cord.
He unplugged my computer.
Unplugged her computer.
But I forgive him.
Yeah. Now she's looking to be in one accord. But anyway.
But let me just say something regarding the letter. Let's get back to the letter, because I love the letter. I love the letter concept, because his word is a letter to us. Mm. And when you think about it, the epistles that were, he says, we are living epistles read by all men.
Yeah.
Our life is like a letter. It's a book, actually. And but this is a love letter to us. This is a love letter to us. And if we look at it as a love letter from the King, or a love song, because it says that he sings over us.
Yes.
So if the Father is singing over us, if the Father is showing us love, should not we reciprocate to other people? I mean, isn't that the whole message? Kindness and love. I mean, I just really, I believe that this is another area that is being related right now. I keep hearing this coming forth from the airwaves from one particular man a lot recently. We love you. We care about you. We're here to help you. And who's saying that a lot? President Trump. When he's giving his messages and he's being attacked by the press and everything about, because this is not happening fast enough, that's not happening fast enough. He's saying, everybody please be calm. We are doing our very best. And you can look at the faces of these people who are the scientists. And I pray for those scientists that they'll have the spirit of wisdom, and the spirit of wisdom will work through them, and they will get to the root of whatever they have to get through. The main thing is everybody has to teshuva and turn back to the living God and listen and obey. That's the main objective. But I keep hearing President Trump saying, we love you. We're working very hard. We want to help you. And he went through the test, and they had to stick a tube down his nose and everything. He says, they're refining the kit now. He says, I hope nobody has to go through what I went through. It's a very painful test. But the bottom line is this, people who are mature and people who are in a position of being an example, which we all should be. That's our mission in life.
Right.
What's a light? A light is a means of directing people. It's a means of directing people. And so we are to be lights unto the nations. We are to be lights unto the nations. And a light will always have the light of the creator of heaven and earth working in and through us. And it happens when we diligently take time to hide his word in our heart. And really, I'm convinced, James, and everybody else, that those commandments, hallelujah. Yes, I do too, Anna. I pray for the leaders of the medical and personal scientists and the first responders. I do too, Anna Frey. I pray for them to have the spirit of wisdom as they're going through their searching. And I believe that things are happening. and that it's amazing the hours they're putting in. I mean, they're getting maybe 3 hours of sleep a day. That's how much time and effort, because it's huge. Hospitals are being overworked with the emergency rooms, and it's a very, very taxing position to be in. People in the medical field are really being tested too, and that's I work for the medical field, and some of our doctors are really having to put in a lot of hours and deal with situations that they were trained for. And my particular doctors are really in a very serious position because of the area of exposure to this virus. So anyhow, I'll tell you one area that, James, that we should do right now. I mean, not right this minute, but on today, every day, is pray. Anna, I'm so happy that I hear you saying you're praying, because each one of us, we need to pray for our leaders. We need to pray for those who are the Father has created to be the scientists. They're all the Father's creation. That their hearts would be softened to the fact there's a creator. And everybody has to acknowledge that it's only through obedience that this is going to be solved. It's only through the hand of the creator. And that's the solution. And that's why, what did I think it was Moshe that said this: let my people go to serve Yahweh. Let my people go.
Yeah, actually, Yahweh said it to Moshe, who repeated it to Pharaoh.
There you go. Yahweh said it. Yes.
Well, maybe it was Aaron that actually said it.
But it came from the source.
But it came from the source,
yeah,
exactly.
To worship, and to be obedient. And that's why we were set free, is to worship and to obey. And so he doesn't change. It's the same. It's the same. It's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He changes not. And people just have to learn, like that scientist says, you have to go back to the beginning to find out what the origin is. So we have to go back to the beginning to say, what do we need to do to fix this situation? Well, the way we need to go fix the situation is obedience. It says it right there in Exodus 24:7. I love it. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Exodus 24:7. It says, and he took the book of the covenant and read it in the hearing of the people. And they said, all that Yahweh has spoken, we shall do and obey. Now, the book of the covenant is the 12 words. It's the command. 10 words, rather. I'm sorry, 10 words. It's the 10 words. And so
Amen to that.
I'm looking at 12 tribes.
Good pivot.
Yeah. I wasn't.
But you're like one of the best pivoters I've ever seen anyway. I mean, you should see her pivot. I can
dance with the best.
I mean, I pivot, I step on toes. But you pivot, you're
and it's interesting too. Moshe took half the blood and put it in the basin, and half the blood he sprinkled on the slaughter place. So that's the significance of the blood too. But the bottom line is the book of the covenant.
Yes.
And the book of the covenant is the ketubah, and it's the 10 words. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's time to just kind of examine our lives.
Big time.
I mean, we're getting very fixated, which is a good thing, on washing our hands for 20 seconds, using Purell type of cleansers, sanitizers constantly, Clorox wipes for the hard surfaces and the doorknobs and the faucets and all that kind of stuff, and anything that we do on the tables that we eat at and whatnot. And those are all good signs of us cleansing ourselves and preparing ourselves, making ourselves ready for this wonderful time of Passover, where again we have this time of intimacy, this time of, and again I have no problem with the larger crowds, 100 or more, or whatever, or less, or 30 to 50, whatever it is, to do the Passovers. But this year, probably not so much that we can do that anyway, even if you wanted to. So it's a time for families to get together, not even outsiders. I mean, it talked about go to your homes. If you read chapter 12 in Shemot,
I
go
love
to
you
your
for
homes.
saying that. I love you for saying that. It's all about, because that's part of it too. The family. It's about the family and the family coming together. Very important.
It is. It is. You know, and you know who your family is. But you know, there's lots of things. You know, to get together. Well, I mean, you know, there may be some part of your family you just don't want over because they don't, you know, they're not like mind, like kind. And I think Passover, and we talked about this before, is Passover is a time where like-minded, like-kind believers come together. You know, you don't have unbelievers coming into Passover. Sukkot, it's a more of a gathering, and you can, you know, bring lots of different peoples.
And we've done both.
Celebrate,
done both. We've had big Passovers at our place, and we've had large Sukkots.
Yeah.
And but it's very important. You're right, to have a like mind, like kind during Passover, because it's connecting the dots.
Exactly. It's a time of relationship between you and your Creator, and the family that the Father has blessed you with. Again, you know, so you don't want turmoil. You don't want you know, any kind of friction within that, because it's all about relationship. It's and I think the Father has just put this in a way that you know, He's knocking down a lot of idols in people's lives, whether they know it or not. You know, and I don't know how much teshuvah is going to happen, but it can happen in our hearts. We're constantly shuving. We're all constantly returning back to the Father, you know, back to His ways, examining our hearts to see what dross is in there still that needs to come out. You know, the closer we get to the all-consuming fire, the things, you know, He will purify us. He will cleanse us. Mm-hmm. But it gets heated. It gets hot. It burns. But it's good. It's interesting. And this is really nothing to. You know, but we were at last Sukkot. We were at the marketplace in Oregon, and this woman and her wife was selling. Her husband. Oh yeah, that's what I meant.
I know. I'm here for you.
Thank you.
You got me.
I know. Touche.
Can you dance?
Yeah, on your toes. But you know, they had these eye drops, and it was MSM or something. And I've never even heard of that before. But you know, they were a nice couple, and they said, "No, these are really, really great for your eyes." And I said, "How much are they?" And I nearly fainted, but that's okay. That's all right. You know, it was Sukkot. I was feeling a little bit more giving. So we bought one. And when we put it, you know, she said it will sting a little bit in your eyes. And when we did it, it was like, wow, my goodness, the sting was burning. I mean, burning in our eyes. But after the burn came down, it was like, oh, that feels better. And then we did that and as we did it during the week, I mean, my eyes get very dry and they hurt a lot of times because I'm looking at computer screens a lot, and I just don't have the tear duct thing going as well as I should. I mean, it's the age I am or whatever. I have no idea, but that's what the doctor said. And I always believe the doctor. Not. But you know, so you know, they even recommended eye drops way back, and I did a little bit, but these ones, and then we ran out of it. We ran out of the bottle, and I was trying to find these. I was trying to find this couple. They wouldn't answer me, so I'm like, okay, you know. So I'm calling the number on the bottle, and you know, I got some weird things, and finally I got through to somebody, and I said, "Is this that product?" He said, "Oh yeah." He said, "It's actually discontinued now. It's coming into a new phase, so new ones will be out in about 2 or 3 months." And I'm saying, "Oh man, I wanted them." He said, "Well, I actually have a few extra. If you want to buy them." I said, "How many?" He said, "How many do you want?" I said, 3. He said, "Yeah, I have 3." So we got them the other day, and the same thing, bang, a little different bottle look, but we put them in our eyes, and that burned. So I'm just thinking, it produced good results. And as you get closer to that all-consuming fire, it burns, but it creates precious gold, precious purity within us. Because he said that, I'm not sure which book it's in, but he said, "And he shall purify the sons of Levi." And if the sons of Levi are the priests, the Levites, the ones that are in charge of the service of the tabernacle. I mean, all of them. But there are certain ones that the Kohen, and then the Merari and the, I can't remember what it starts with the G. Do you remember? I don't know. I don't know. The Gibeonites. I can't remember what they are. Oh, I should know this. But anyway, there was 3 sons of Levi. And we are called kings and priests unto the Father. So, we are going to be purified. And
we are being purified.
We are being purified.
It's a process happening right now.
AviGayle has spoken. We are.
No, I mean, it's happening. It's happening as we teshuva, as we do the commandments.
Yes.
Because the commandments will purify our mind, will, and emotions.
Amen to that.
Because the human nature is, human nature. The spiritual nature wants to do the commandments. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak.
Right.
You ever hear that expression?
Oh, yeah.
It's in the Bible. So, but the bottom line is, the spirit wants to do it. And the more we allow the spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, to work in us, the
Amen.
more we'll burn off that excess that we don't need.
Amen. Burning off excess. That's a good thing.
The excess baggage.
The baggage. Don't you love the way she says that? I do. And now I'm from Boston, but I still, I don't know. No one says baggage like you say baggage.
I know. And I went to school to try to get rid of my New England accent.
Well, it didn't work.
Obviously. But anyhow, it's been fun.
Yeah, it has. But be encouraged. I think this is going to be a special, special time. Keep on praying, for this virus to go away, to be halted. I think it is a plague, and the Father will see it through in His timing. But we want to be prayed up, and for those that are less fortunate than we are, and the older folks, and I even heard millennials are pretty subjected to it now, from at least from the European side. So that they pray that they would have common sense, and not think they're inevitable, like we all used to think, that nothing could hurt us, and they're all at beaches or gatherings, that they would not be thinking about their pleasure, but they would be thinking more about others, and that will change the mindset of America to more compassion, to more kindness, to more mercy. There's a lot of great stories out there, and but the Father is going to be glorified. And pray for a revival. Pray for a pouring out of His Spirit upon all flesh in these days, so that people come to the saving knowledge, the redeeming, to come to the Redeemer, Yeshua HaMashiach, as the blood of the Lamb is on the lintel. It's struck. They strike the lintel, the head, strike the lintel, and put the blood on the doorpost. As we enter into this Passover season, that our lives would be changed, our families' lives would be changed, more revelation would come. We would walk more in the gifts of the Spirit, and Shema Yisrael, hear and obey, all the people of Israel.
And I believe that, again, listening and obeying the word and
Yes.
hiding the word in our hearts, and that'll change us.
Yes, it will.
That'll change us. We need change in our lives.
We do.
He doesn't need to change, but we need to change.
We do. All right. So thank you so much for watching. It was a little bit sober, but there was hope. There's a lot of hope in there, because of what I think the Father is going to do in each one of our lives at that Passover table, as we reach in and see what the Father is doing in our lives, and getting much more insight, spiritual insight to what is going on today, so that we can be a blessing to anyone that comes into our path. I saw, actually, let me end with that, because that was actually good, because I saw something that Papa Al said in the beginning. He had a praise report. So I just want to read this, and this will be the end of this show. It says, Shalom Mishpacha, I've had an awesome praise report. I've been talking to the Father about this area where I live during this time of the virus. This afternoon was walking across Walmart parking lot, and a young lady said, "Excuse me, I need to talk to you." Come to find out, the Father just opened her eyes to Torah. She had talked to another man online in Hamilton, Ontario. We talked a very long time. She has many questions. Please pray that Abba will give me wisdom to talk to her more. She really wanted to stay connected. Got her email.
Hallelujah.
So thank you, Father,
awesome.
for blessing
Yes.
Papa Al and ministering.
A divine appointment.
A divine appointment in a Walmart
Excellent.
parking lot, to just touch her,
Excellent.
to bless her, to open her eyes to see wonders from the Torah, using Brother Al as a vessel.
That is so exciting.
For your glory.
Oh, I love
A
it.
vessel
I love
of
it.
honor.
I love it. Yes.
And we just thank you, Father.
Yes.
Hashem
Hallelujah.
Yeshua HaMashiach.
Yes.
Hallelujah. Oh, where am I here? All right. Okay. So, amen. So thank you so much again. We'll see you if you're available on Shabbat. We'll be here at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time doing the Torah study among friends, along with our brother Jamie Lewis, or as we call him Jamie Louis. So, shalom, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and we'll see you soon. Shalom.
Shalom.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hugi, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.